and welcome to the Embodied Psyche. My name is Hannah Bernstein, and I'm here today with Tabitha Silver. Hi, Tabitha.
Hey, nice to see you.
It's wonderful to see you as well. Let's just hop right in. Um, so you currently own an acupuncture clinic, and you have an app. You're based in New York City. How did you first come to do this work?
I own Body Mechanics Acupuncture in Manhattan, New York City, and Body Knows Best app is something that I just started developing, since this spring, kind of since the coronavirus pandemic has kind of taken over as a way to virtually reach out to my patients more. I got into acupuncture actually initially as an undergrad at St. John's College, where we both went. And that was kind of at the end of party week. Our school nurse had an acupuncturist come onto campus and give people kind of ear acupuncture treatments. And that was kind of my first experience having acupuncture. And it was one where I was really relaxed and really focused at the same time, which was something that I never kind of experienced before. And that kind of, really got my juices flowing in terms of this is not something like I've ever heard of. Why isn't this everywhere? Like I could have used this during college. And it was kind of a revolutionary experience for me in that regard because I had up until that point thought about being a therapist or a social worker, which is more kind of the mental space. And I didn't really realize that there were ways that I could do work that would bring kind of both mental and physical and maybe spiritual all together under one umbrella. So that was kind of, that first experience of acupuncture was a little bit of a spiritual awakening. And then I started to do a lot more research and reading, obviously, about it. And long story short, ended up in acupuncture school. So it's kind of how it all started.
Very cool. I guess I'm curious about that kind of awakening into this experience. Like you mentioned being interested in doing traditional talk therapy before. Had you had a history with that modality before experiencing acupuncture?
Yeah, I mean, as a teenager, I was in therapy for a while. I was, kind of a depressed kind of kid, and I'm transracially adopted, so there were kind of a lot of things that I needed to unpack, and therapy was really helpful for that, just in terms of getting me in touch with what my emotional state was, how I thought about, my experiences or upbringing, what my values were, really getting me to listen to myself more, and forgive myself for, maybe having negative emotions, and not always being happy and productive all the time. And that was kind of my therapist as a child was really kind of transformative for me. So I really looked up to her and was like, oh, I can totally do this. This is something that everybody should experience. I should definitely, share this with other people. And I tend to be that person in my friend groups that gives advice. And people come to for suggestions or for coaching or for pep talks. So it kind of felt like a natural segue to like, oh, I could be a therapist and people can pay me for my advice and it'll kind of be like the rest of my life. But it didn't always feel it didn't really feel like powerful enough to me. I think as a really little kid, I wanted to be like a magician, or a wizard or an alien. So I always kind of was interested in like fantasy novels and reading about like other magical ways of helping people transform their lives. And to be fair, like acupuncture kind of fit into that box a little bit better of not just focusing on kind of the brain or our, mental kind of narrative for our lives, but also kind of connecting with that lived experience as well on an internal embodied level. So kind of from the inside out rather than from the head down, I guess.
Very cool. Yeah. I love that you brought up magic because I think people in this profession don't often directly talk about that. But for me, like, part of the fun of getting into like Reiki and body work and stuff was that it almost felt like like power that we don't usually tap into in the human experience. So very cool. I really appreciate learning a little bit more about that transformation. And yeah, I guess I'm curious about your practice now, your practice as you were building it. How has your work been impactful for your clients?
Yeah, so when I first started my practice, it was called free range acupuncture. And I really did want to incorporate kind of more of that and speak to more of that side, like the magical side of connecting with your body. Because our bodies tend to send us a lot of signals, like, there's this idiom of, pain is a signal that things need to change. And, pain is not the only signal that people experience that is like a sign that something needs to change in their lifestyle. And so I really wanted to be able to talk to my patients about that straight out of acupuncture school and utilize, Reiki and tarot cards and, any other kind of modalities that I'd learned about in school, even tangentially. I kind of wanted herbalism. I wanted to throw everything in. And so I was kind of trying to offer everything. That can be difficult for patients to kind of accept because a lot of times people don't know what acupuncture is or don't know how it works or don't know what it's going to do for them or don't know what symptoms it can treat or what conditions it can be helpful for. So kind of as I've gone on in my practice, I've kind of streamlined down and not to say that I don't want to utilize this idea of magic, but I guess I kind of try to hide the magic in a way. Like, we're going to totally treat your back pain. There's no magic here. It's science, we're treating the muscles. But then in reality, like, we're actually, it kind of starts to change your life. And we talk about, these other passions that you have in your life. And you might, set some goals, or you might, realize that, your job is not one that you love and that there are other things in your life that you've been trying to do. So I guess as I've been practicing acupuncture, I've learned that less is more, I guess, and that being really strategic about the types of information I give people about what acupuncture can accomplish is more productive when we first start working with patients. But I started out as free range acupuncture, which was really about helping people feel liberated and feel free in their bodies and not feel trapped by their conditions. And I started working more and more with patients, and then kind of a lot of the other modalities besides acupuncture started to drop away. And I really began to focus on acupuncture because after reading a lot of business development books and personal development books, realized the one thing that I can do better than, other people is acupuncture. And the one thing that I can give to people that a lot of people are interested in, that they're not able to access, is acupuncture treatment. And that can be a first step, that can be a gateway for people to actually explore lots of other modalities. And I can always refer people to people who are way better at Reiki than I am, or who are way better at tarot reading than I am, or way better at biofeedback, work than I am. But that acupuncture is really a gateway to that kind of thinking about your body in a different way, and thinking about your body as a tool or a messenger for you to live your life, rather than thinking about your body as a problem that needs to be solved.
I love that idea of the body as a tool or messenger for how you live your life. Is that how you phrased it?
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than as just a source of pain. Because I do think that oftentimes clients come really at odds with their body in a certain way, especially people who are pretty intellectual and
yes,
not active. And I know in my own path, in my own relationship to healing, there was something about just kind of coming down from the head and acknowledging the energy flow in the body that was super helpful. And I'm just imagining, as someone who took such an intellectual path at first, that maybe that was something that you could relate to.
Oh my God. I felt super liberated coming from a school where it's all about reading books and ideas and discussing philosophies, to be able to really do something, a job that there's a lot that's unspoken, that I can engage with a patient about, maybe they say that they've had a traumatic day today, or they had a traumatic experience as a child, but we don't have to unpack all of that. We can go straight to the body and the body will do the work. That there's something really liberating about not having to like figure something out mentally. It's not, we don't have to unpack everything right now when you've just met your practitioner, that you can come from an embodied perspective and you can actually unravel some of those stories, some of those memories physically, because really your whole life is written in your body. It's written in your muscles, it's written in your bones, it's written in your nervous system. It's the pathways that are repeated in your brain, if we want to get mental about it, and the way to unravel some of that and to get in touch with it in a new way is through the embodied experience, through the lived experience, the physical experience. We tend to repeat the same patterns when we think about things just mentally. And I think there's a lot of freedom and creativity that's available for thinking about how you can live a different life when you kind of bring the body back into the conversation rather than just depending on the mind to guide everything and consciousness to guide everything.
I'm just kind of curious about how you balance learning from acupuncture and the history of acupuncture with serving a Western population. I think you mentioned that your school really directly addressed that it was kind of a Western approach to acupuncture.
Yeah, the school that I went to, Tri-State College of Acupuncture, may it rest in peace, it no longer exists, was really focused on this modality of acupuncture that was kind of synthesized by our founder, Dr. Mark Seam, which was really guiding Western, especially American clients to a form of acupuncture that they could really understand and connect with. Not to say that, he didn't invent a new acupuncture. Acupuncture is a 3,000-year-old modality. But he did conceptualize it and kind of turn it into filter it in such a way that we learned how to talk about what we were doing in treatment with American patients in a way that they can understand. So that involved combining this classical Chinese medicine philosophy that, has been implicit in the medicine with more of a Western sports medicine focus. So that kind of the really learning about the anatomy and physiology of muscles, and really talking about your musculature and your arming, what is it called? Like how you arm yourself for your life through your musculature and how you hold your body, is one way that we can get away from talking about acupuncture in a very kind of philosophical and almost spiritual way that comes through, or mythological way that comes through in a lot of the ancient texts, and talk about it more in a concrete way that Americans can mentally kind of engage with. So it's a lot about that, physical arming. We call it emotional anatomy, which kind of comes out of somatic psychology.
Very cool. Yeah. I think the way my supervisor refers to that is armoring.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you meant. But I again, how we're touching upon this kind of bridge between, almost platonic reality and magical reality. There's a history of this spiritual kind of way of addressing it, but to access it in this American way requires talking about it in terms of the musculature, if I'm following you correctly.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's really, we might start out, this is a good example. I have a patient who has a lot of digestive issues. Anything they put in their body, it just doesn't seem like their body agreed. It doesn't agree with them. And we talked a lot about, they have a lot of tension and inflammation across their abdomen. They tended to, because they have so much pain and discomfort across their abdomen, kind of ignore the whole area. So it's kind of numb. Literally, if you put your hand on it, they don't really, can't tell you whether they have 5 fingers on your stomach or 2 fingers on your stomach. They've kind of it's a gap in their consciousness that they have kind of refused to integrate because it's so problematic for them and it's just scary almost. And so working with them incrementally has been to kind of reintegrate that part of their body into their experience, because okay, I always have stomach pain, like I'm just going to try to forget and ignore my stomach so that I can go live my life. Well, you can't heal like that. That's not a way to heal. That's a way to survive, but that's not a way to heal. And I kind of feel like in America, that's a super important piece of wisdom that we need to get from other cultures, because we're kind of in survival mode constantly. We're highly productive. We're obsessed with productivity and moving forward and accomplishment, but we're not so, focused on like, how can I slow down and pay attention to what's going wrong and actually heal it from the root cause rather than just treat the symptom or turn off the symptom. And then again, we were talking about before, that's a messenger that your body's sending you. Those physical, signals are meant to be listened to. Your body you wouldn't be in pain if there wasn't something that needed to be addressed. And so I really think that that's something that is important for us to kind of get from these other cultural medicines, these traditional medicines, whether it's herbalism, whether it's Reiki, whether it's, any kind of hands-on modality, or from these systems of healing like Ayurvedic or traditional Chinese medicine, where it's kind of a holistic approach to health, both from diet and acupuncture or some sort of body work, to like, any kind of exercise routines are all part of the same healing system or the same medical system of like preventative medicine, not just treatment of symptoms. And so like it's a tricky world, because I think you can start to exoticize other cultures. I think that's maybe an experience that a lot of people who study traditional healing modalities go through, is like, oh, it's China. Like, we learned this Chinese medicine and China's so perfect and amazing and they're way better than we are. And like, I'm going to learn everything about China. I'm going to learn calligraphy. I'm going to learn Chinese cooking. I'm going to dress like a Chinese person, like whatever, type of, visions or mythological, journeys that we go on to really try and embody, the medicine that we're learning to love and respect, can kind of get go a little bit off the rails when we start to kind of appropriate some of these other elements of these foundational or cultures. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, there's a delicate line between appropriating those things and then trying to synthesize the medicine into your culture. So I'm kind of trying to walk that line of, I'm not going to say like, oh, acupuncture is now American, but I think that an American version of acupuncture and the way that we can utilize acupuncture is necessary, because people need to be able to engage with it in an authentic way. I know authentic is a word that we maybe overuse, but I think that in order for us to actually absorb a treatment, it has to feel like we get it. We grok it. We can let it in, that it's not an other, that it's not separate, that it's not coming from somewhere that we're not, even foundationally connected to. So I don't know if that makes sense.
I especially love the emphasis on kind of like coming into wholeness, using these different modalities in such a way that rather than suppressing symptoms as they arise, people are getting to know all of their bodies and coming into a kind of unity. And I do think there's kind of like a metaphorical overlap with, like cultural appreciation there. It's like we're not ignoring where this came from. We're respecting the lineage. But we're also bringing in our own history, so that there's a relationship there. Right. At least that's kind of how I have made sense of it in my own work and my own practice.
Yeah, I think that it is super important that there has to be a relationship with the medicine. I think people want that. I think that's something that's wrong, or that's wrong with our American healthcare system, is that a lot of times, you go into a doctor's office and they're the one who has all the knowledge. They're the one who's the font of healing wisdom, and they're going to heal you. And you just lay down and the doctor will take care of everything. A lot of acupuncture, although I'm the one doing the treatment, the person on the table actually is also doing the treatment. They're also accepting the treatment into themselves. Some people never come back because they don't feel comfortable accepting the treatment. They don't feel comfortable engaging with the feelings or the sensations that the acupuncture treatment actually starts to unlock in them. They don't want to engage with their body in a new way. So like a lot of changes happen when you really connect with a new medicine that you haven't, really had experience with before. And I think a lot of changes happen when you can really engage with a healing modality that's not just the healer is doing the work. It's also like, I am now engaging with this healing journey in a different way myself.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I feel like so much of this is just my opinion, but my opinion is that so much of what the newer generation of therapeutic modalities are bringing to the art of healing work is more client-centered care and recognition that we're not just there to like cure people. People are there to really heal themselves, and that's where the emphasis and power belongs. And it's funny because that's the way that like I was trained when I got my master's in psychology. But if I go and I personally go see, like, I have a Jungian analyst who I love, but she's in her 70s and she was not trained in client-centered care. So sometimes I really have to say, like, hey, like, I need you to stop interrupting me.
You have to assert that. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
totally.
I know what's best for me a lot of the time.
I love that. And that's interesting because I feel like as I've practiced more, I, as a practitioner, have begun to be more pushy with people, maybe to get them to also stand up for themselves a little bit more, not just in the treatment room, but also in the rest of their lives. Because I think that client-centered approach starts to trickle into other parts of your life. And when you give a patient the opportunity to kind of lead the healing, is when they kind of take that responsibility in their day-to-day life as well. And that's a thing that we don't necessarily always have, that can start to be the root of why we're not healthy.
Oh, wow. I love that recognition that sometimes disempowerment can really make us sick. And
yeah.
I see that in a lot of ways, like through no fault of their own, people have felt really disempowered and like kind of learned the degree of helplessness.
Yes.
The fact that you give that power back to your clients as a practitioner, I think is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I would love to hear what you say because I was going to move on to another topic. So please continue.
I mean, I think I was just thinking of like kind of a problematic part about that I've experienced being an acupuncturist is that acupuncture can hurt. We like to say like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's not painful. It's pain-free acupuncture, but acupuncture can be painful. Like any healing can be painful. And that's something that sometimes people want it to be rainbows and butterflies and soothing, but it's not always when you confront the pain that you're experiencing or the things that you may have done to yourself in your lifestyle choices that got you to where you are. That can be really painful. And so it feels like that's something that I've had to kind of come to terms with as a practitioner is that I may be, by forcing somebody to focus on the things that are happening in their life or happening in their body, or even by, trigger pointing a specific muscle or trying to release some tension somewhere or stimulating a point, I may be causing pain to someone, but that's towards the intention of healing. And for people, that's a really kind of, I think, also a powerful thing to kind of be able to engage with is that all pain isn't bad.
I mean, certainly I've had that experience of sometimes the most profound openings coming through moments that feel really intense or hard. So yeah, that is part of the work. And yeah, I think, again, this is where I come back to like my belief in client-centered care, because I want to make sure they're choosing that that's okay for them at that moment.
Exactly.
And I have experienced like, I have some peers in the body work world to do like pretty extreme work, like, myofascial release that's really intense. And there have been moments when I've gone into that and it's been actually like inappropriate for me to like do the really extreme version of that. And yeah, I think sometimes when practitioners take a little bit too much of that role of like being powerful, being the healer, there can even be re-traumatization.
Oh yeah.
Yes to pain, but like make sure it's the client's choice, I guess.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of the most important things I think I learned in acupuncture school that's central to that practice of acupuncture is listening. I mean, that's one of the first techniques that they teach you, whether you're in the diagnostic mode or in the treatment mode. You need to be listening. You need to be constantly listening, and listening is also done through touch. So if I'm touching a patient and I've asked for their consent before touching them, I'm listening to their response. I'm touching their body. I'm looking at their eyes and making sure that they're still in their body and making sure they're still connected with the work that we're doing, so that's not a disengagement, okay, I'm the healer, I'm going to inflict this treatment on you. That's going too far. That's the healer using their ego to guide the treatment rather than really connecting with the patient and following their lead, where they, are open to going. So yeah, listening is that major piece.
Cool. I really have a ton of respect for the way that you conduct your practice, and it's so good to speak to you about this. The next thing I wanted to ask you about is a little bit of a change of pace. It's more like systemically, healing systemically. You and I both live in America. Often, we try to do things through insurance, which serves some populations and not others. How do you, in your work with trying to serve as many people as possible? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I take health insurance in my practice, and that's something that, especially during this pandemic, and since the murder of George Floyd, I just feel like I need to do better at being more accessible, at making acupuncture care more accessible. I mean, acupuncture in America, hasn't really made a lot of progress with accessibility. One major group that did a lot of great work was Matulu Shakur and Walter Bosque, the Young Lords and the Black Panthers in the 70s opened up a clinic in the Bronx to do acupuncture detox treatments for people. They did ear acupuncture on addicts, and it was really effective for helping people get off of drugs and get kind of their lives back. That was a free clinic. Acupuncture should be accessible to anybody who needs it. And for some reason in America, we haven't been able to make that leap for a medicine that's extremely inexpensive to provide. I mean, it's really just time and paying the person to practice it and to learn it. But the treatment itself is not, it's not a $10,000 needle. The needles are super cheap, and that's really all you need to do a treatment is, a person and maybe a chair, maybe, and the acupuncture needles. So I'm really, I've been really struggling with the lack of access because health insurance is, in some ways it opens up access because those who have health insurance coverage do have some acupuncture coverage and can get care, but those who don't can't. And a lot of people who do have health insurance, their insurance coverage isn't as good as it should be. There's a lot of kind of tricks that our insurance systems play to deny coverage. They do put a lot of emphasis on cures. So if I'm treating somebody for back pain that they've had their whole life and I treat them 12 times and they're not cured magically, I'm not allowed to keep treating them. The insurance company is not going to keep covering that because I haven't magically cured them. And acupuncture would be great for somebody like that to get on a regular basis to prevent them from being in pain. So it's kind of the different goals that our health insurance systems or our current healthcare system has than what I think the value that acupuncture can bring in terms of preventative medicine is something that I'm trying to overcome.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And I think you've also, within the current state of the pandemic, also tried to make your work more accessible by going online in various ways. Like you have a new app.
Yeah. So I developed an app called Body Knows Best, kind of using this kind of social app idea like Facebook, but it's really focused on health and healing and reflection. So I use that to kind of engage with my patients and do a little bit of coaching with them, because one component of an acupuncture treatment is also the discussion. So talking and listening is really important, as I was saying before. So I kind of tried to decouple that from the acupuncture treatment, which is something the physical treatment we couldn't do during shelter in place in New York, and offer kind of this other way that we can engage with some of the same issues. The thing that I love about acupuncture is that acupuncture needles are not the only way to move chi, is what my teachers in acupuncture school told me. So it's not the only way to transform somebody's life or transform somebody's lived experience, is not just through acupuncture needles, but it can also be through listening to music, or through, reading a quote that really connects with you, that can also move chi. Can also, we've all experienced that. You're feeling shitty and you listen to a song that you really love, and it can even relieve your pain. So I started to use the Body Knows Best app to kind of bring my patients together online, and also just do some daily reflection around how people were feeling, get people to engage with their bodies, to really connect with their bodies again, and kind of also connect with their intuition, kind of our gut instincts. A lot of times when you're in a really stressful situation, which we kind of are globally right now, you start to kind of shut down those gut instincts and kind of go into survival mode. And so I kind of wanted there to be a place that people could stay connected to themselves and stay connected to what their needs are, and still think about the future and dream about possibilities, and not feel like they were kind of trapped in a day-to-day slog of being alone, or feeling isolated, or feeling like their dreams had kind of been put on hold. Because that, I feel like, is also a part of this kind of alienation, can be really detrimental to long-term health.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just curious if there might be a tiny demonstration you could share with us, of just maybe something the viewers of this show could take home with them, a way of moving this life force, this chi.
Yeah, you may have seen me keep kind of looking up and away. Out my window, I can see the Hudson River, actually. And I think that recently I've been just treating a lot of people for neck and shoulder pain. We're all kind of in what I call gremlin mode. We're on the computer all the time, or we're swiping on our phones all the time. And just one practice that we have in acupuncture is, on top of just bringing down your shoulder blades and really lifting up from your sternum and being able to take a deep breath, and is to look far away. So we spend a lot of our day right now on screens and looking really closely at things and reading things on our computer. And I think there's something major to be gained, not just physically, your eyes are literally getting tired, but also emotionally and spiritually, by looking far into the distance. And kind of softening our gaze. So that's definitely something that I've been talking to a lot of my patients about, is just kind of disengaging from the screen, and really taking that time to kind of look into the future, look into the distance, relax your gaze. The pragmatic things, the pragmatic problems of the day will be here for you when you get back, but just taking the time to take a breath and really kind of look a little bit further away.
I found that immediately helpful. As you said that, I found myself being oh, right, relax. Take in a little bit of there's greenery out the window.
Just a little bit.
Need to be this life 18 inches from my face.
Exactly. Goes a long way. Goes a little bit, goes a long way.
Well, thank you so much, Tabitha. I want to give you an opportunity, if you want to just plug your company, plug your app, say anything you want to about what people might want to check out about your practice.
Oh, cool. Yeah. If you're in New York City, definitely check out Body Mechanics Acupuncture. We're here. We're essential services. We'll be here. We're open. We're treating people. We're starting actually to open a nonprofit wing of the practice. So we're going to start to offer some sliding scale prices for services, which is one way that I'm trying to kind of create more access for people. So if you have, financial hardship, reach out, let us know. We'll try and, work with you and get you in. I don't want, finances to be a barrier to care. And if, you're not in New York City, you can find us on Body Knows Best. You can find us on Instagram and check out kind of how things go. And then, definitely, download the app. We're in the App Store, Android and Apple. And it would be really great to have you there.
Well, thank you so much. It was really lovely to talk directly with you today. And yeah, I'm really excited to check out the app myself.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really great. This has actually got my, juices flowing, some ideas kind of percolating. So yeah, this was really great. Thank you so much, Anna.
You're so welcome. All right. Bye. Have a wonderful day.
Take care.